Be the Bridge community. I am excited. Like I say, I'm always excited for the guests that I have on the podcast. But I love bringing people that I know to you, our community. And so this is just such a welcoming community. And I want you to welcome Mr. BJ Thompson, also known as Coach Thompson. He is here. BJ is a life coach. He is a speaker and author who helped launch one of the largest faith movements in recent history, the 116 movement, with Grammy Award winning artist Lecrae. He also served alongside Brian Laritz to expand groundbreaking racial reconciliation work in Memphis, Tennessee. BJ has worked with tens of thousands of individuals and couples over the world, helping them to experience personal and relational growth. Currently, BJ serves as the executive director for Build a Better Us. He has a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of North Texas and a master's degree in Christian studies from Union University. He has been featured in Relevant Magazine, Propel, Christianity Today, Barna, and other publications. And so he has also worked with the History Channel, ERSLC, Desire in God Universities, and all of these things. And his wife, Vanja, and his wife, Vanja, has been married for 16 years, and they live
20.
in the wonder. Oh,
20.
okay. Let me say that again. He and his wife, Vanja, has been married for 20 years, and they live in the beautiful city of Atlanta. Okay, now listen. I'm not interviewing everybody from Atlanta, which I would like to interview everyone for Atlanta. He just happens to live in the great city of Atlanta with me, and they have 3 children. So I am so grateful to introduce our community to Mr. BJ Thompson. BJ, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on Be the Bridge today.
Yeah, first of all, that was a mouthful. That was a lot. Like, from your work, like everybody that's listening to me, they probably stopped at Lecrae. They probably said, "So Lecrae, what is this Lecrae?" No. They probably heard that. And all the things that you've done. We met probably, I think we met online on Twitter, I think originally. And I saw that you were from Atlanta, and I started following you. When I was living in Austin.
Yeah.
Yep. Years ago. And then we connected on just following each other. We had some mutual friends. And then when I moved here, I was trying to get reacquainted with the city and meet different people, because a lot changes in 5.5 years when you leave a place.
Yeah, it does.
And so we met and had lunch. I had lunch, you had half a lunch because you were vegan, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was not a lot that you could eat there.
Right.
And so, but we sat and talked and just had a great conversation. And so I've been following you even before then, but following some of your things closely. And I know you're good friends with Beth Moore, and I consider Beth Moore a friend of mine also. And so we have a lot of friends in common and stuff. So tell the audience, who is BJ Thompson? What's going on? Who are you? Like, I read your bio, but who are you really?
Yeah. That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, thank you for the warm welcome. We love the work that you guys are doing at Be the Bridge. And, I think it's a very essential work, because oftentimes we're living in a world of tribalism. People are in their own tribes. And I specifically say that because that's what it feels like. It feels like everybody is about their own individual agenda. And it's very difficult, but necessary to create more of an integrated, pluralistic society where people can have meaningful dialogue and connection across different races, backgrounds, and understandings. And so I'm just super proud of the work that you are doing and the trainings that you guys are doing. Again, I remember when you were at Austin Stone and just trying to put it together. And it's like, man, just to watch where this work has grown to now, to where, man, the small groups, the trainings, the connections, and all these different things. Is super cool. But more about me.
Yeah.
So I'm a Texas man. I come from the great nation of Texas. That's what they call it,
Oh, we'll
right?
forgive you for that. No.
Right. So one thing-
I love Texas. I
that's
love
right.
Texas.
So the thing is, and I didn't notice until I left. I thought every state knew their state bird, their state pledge of allegiance. So we moved from the regular pledge of allegiance to the Texas pledge of allegiance. I didn't know that wasn't normal. The blue bonnet flower. I mean, you literally, when you were in Texas, you were in its own world. I'm a Dallas native, not a Cowboy
Oh,
fan or hater. Was raised by a mother who had me at the age of 17, a dad who left school in the 10th grade. And I grew up at the height of gang culture in Dallas. And so much of what, my early lifestyle was having to navigate tons of volatility and thinking I had everything I needed. Well, I moved away, an hour away, to the University of North Texas, and realized that the skills that I had learned only really worked in that setting. And so that was a very eye-opening moment to realize that, maybe you are the flavor that you are, but there's way more, different types of people that look just like you, and they have more life skills than you. Met my wife, Vanja, there. We're actually, in August, we'll be celebrating our 21st anniversary,
wow.
21st year anniversary. That's right. This year.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I am just a proponent of seeing people championing their own growth, championing their healing, taking agency back over their life, and helping create more of an integrated but seamless experience that allows people to grow.
Yeah. That is so good. Tell us about like one of the main things I hear you talk about your the organization that you are the executive director over, and it's called Build a Better Us, and this is kind of like modeled after your book is kind of modeled after this the mission and vision of the organization, and so your part of your mission says we are a growth and development organization for people and for families. So tell us a little bit about what you do and what are some of your goals, and then also how can people connect with it with your organization because
That's
it's needed. I mean, just when you start talking about families, build a better us, all that stuff is like exactly what we need, in this world today. So I would love to hear more about that strategy.
No, it's a great question. So, I mean, I kind of mentioned this. I came from a mother who had me at 17, right? One of the most
Okay.
eye-opening moments. My daughter right now is 19. She's almost 20.
Wow.
No, I almost have a 20-year-old walk around here.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
that's
It
here.
don't even, first of all, you don't look like it.
Mm-mm.
And it's
You know,
probably
black don't crack.
surreal.
Tasha, black don't crack. Don't be
Yes,
back like
yes,
that.
black don't crack.
They say, nah, don't crack. Nah, don't crack.
That's
Yeah,
what that's
but
what I say. Unless you
but
don't
but
crack. Not.
but here's the eye-opening moment for me, right? So this is for the listening
Uh-huh.
audience. When my daughter was 16 years old, I remember looking at her and I had this thought. My mother was my daughter's age right now when she was pregnant with me.
Mm,
And then when my daughter was 17 years old, I had this real epiphany. I thought, my mother birthed me at this age that my daughter is. Then I stood
mm,
back and I asked myself, if I were to let my daughter have now full control over a baby, what all could she give to that child at the age of 17? And I was like, she can barely even clean her room. I don't know what she can give this child, right? That limiting amount
right.
of skills, tools, resources was my reality. My father left school in the 10th grade,
Mm,
and I've always found myself going from different environments, from the suburban communities to the private networks to the rural communities to the urban communities. And I found that quickly I was lacking critical skills to grow. Because of it, I have what's called the gift of development, right? And I didn't know that's what it was called. I'm the oldest of three, have always had to figure it out for myself. What I learned was if you have the right tools and the right resources and the right mindsets, you can accomplish things much quicker. You can accomplish them with
mhm,
less trauma. And that's what Build a Better Us was birthed out of, was how can we give
mm,
working professionals the growth tools, resources, and relationships that save them time and keep them from experiencing trauma around transformation. And so the organization was really birthed out of this. It's coaching, right? but it's holistic coaching because we really believe you are a whole person. You are encompassed of a mind, body, and spirit. Therefore, we don't camp out on one particular area. Again, we come from this background where everything's spiritual, right? Everybody is spiritual. And then when you think you've gotten it, they give you a deep spiritual term you've never heard of before. And now you're just scratching your head, worry about that thing, but you don't know how to build a healthy relationship with a friend. You don't know how to manage your finances. You don't have any idea on how to develop your career. And so Build a Better Us essentially became a coaching network for working professionals to give them the programs, the products, and the experiences that would allow them to develop these critical skills, even though they have a busy life. So yes, that's essentially what we do.
Oh wow, wow. So how long have you been doing have you been the CEO at of Build a Better Us? How long have you guys been in existence?
12 years. So we about 12 to 14 years, but I didn't become full time. I did not go on full time until like 5 years or so. So
Okay.
5 years ago, I got super serious, said, all right, it's time to go all in and really get clear about what we do. Again, this is one of our resources, Awaken a Better
Yeah,
You, right?
we're
So
gonna talk about that.
that's right. So this is one of our resources is writing books, programs, courses, and experiences, providing experiences for people to grow.
Yeah. And I know one of the things you talk a lot about is just even your personal health. Like you went through this journey. Tell us a little bit about the journey you have gone through to
Oh
build
yeah.
a better you.
Oh yeah. So one of the courses that really one of the realities. So 2013, my dad died unexpectedly from a stroke, heart attack.
Mm,
It's very unexpected. He wasn't
mm,
sick. He wasn't overweight. Wasn't any of these things. Get a phone call. I was actually living in Memphis at the time, and I had just come back actually from Atlanta. I was living in Memphis, but I had just come back from this event in Atlanta, this conference. I'm sitting on the porch. My mother calls me, and she is like weeping, and I don't even know. Like she's uncontrollable. I'm just like saying, "Mom, just get it out. Say what happened." So then she blurts out, "Your dad just passed away." And
mm.
I'm just sitting in shock, Tasha, because I can't even grapple what is actually happening. It just, things become a blur. So my brother and I drive to Memphis, and it is true. He's passed away, and we're
Mm,
trying to figure out like what does this mean? Because now,
mhm,
we're having to deal with this. And that was very shocking because my dad was a loving, kind man, but his ability, him taking care of him was never a priority. And he was always taking
mm,
care of other people. Had, certain things he coped with. So he worked a lot, had a poor diet, smoked. These are like little things. And these things like literally made his body collapse. And
mhm.
so, after that moment, it really just kind of sobered me, but nothing about my life had changed just yet. 2018 or so, I started just looking around. I realized my health was on the same trajectory, almost one for one. My work habits, my personal life. The only thing was missing was like I don't smoke. And I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, if I continue down this pathway, I'm going to leave the exact same way. My dad passed at 53 years old. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
my life will end unexpectedly. So, I did something very radical. I just started saying, I'm very afraid of changing. I don't know what's gonna happen. That's what we do, right? Your body just scared. Like I
Yeah.
wanna,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm scared. I want to make a change. I don't know what to do. But I said I would rather give everything I can trying to be a new version of me than to simply allow myself to go where I know things are going. And that's when I
Mm,
made the change. I made the change and this is specifically around like my health and my fitness. But I made like several changes, major changes that year.
right.
And after seeing that change, for a year or so, I wrote a course. I actually wrote a
Mm,
course called the 45-Day
yeah.
Challenge.
Okay.
And I invited a few people into it. They were like, man, this works really well. And now, man, we've probably had about 3 to 5 thousand people go through this course.
What? Oh
Yes,
my goodness. I
yes,
remember when you started it. I
yes.
remember when you started it and you were getting people, and I was tempted. I was tempted. So we're gonna have to talk offline about it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I
oh
was
yeah,
tempted
oh
for it. So
yeah. So listen, but I think this is where people started taking my coaching seriously, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because again, if you hear me say, "Oh, I'm a coach. I started this major movement," this, that, and the third. See, that's one thing. It's another thing when I can be a utility
Mm,
to your health transformation. And remember, I've mastered the
mm,
principles, right? So I know the spiritual formation, I know the
yeah.
mental health. Now it's like the physical. And when people started saying, like, man, this is consistent results, I honestly believe that's when I turned the corner as a coach. That's when people are like, oh, I trust you. Anything you say, I do.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow. Wow. And I mean, how, and I know this has made like just everything kind of like awaken for you, just doing this yourself and then leading others in
That's
this.
it.
And
That's the
I
key.
know a
That's
few
it.
people, that have gone through your program, and I'm seeing the results, and so you just hosted recently an Awaken conference
Oh, yeah.
online.
Oh, yeah.
At the start of the year, you had Beth Moore, you had Christine Kane, you had Lecrae, you had Sam Acho, you had Cal Kovar, um,
Whoever.
uh, Cover, okay, Cal Cover,
Hmm.
and I'm like, oh, these are all people I've had on the podcast except for
Oh,
Christine
yeah.
Kane. I need to get Christine Kane on here,
Oh, yeah. I got
but
you.
yeah, and so you designed to this was designed to encourage and awaken the mind, body, and soul. Tell us a little bit about that conference, why you chose these people, and what did you want people to take away from the conference?
It's a great question. So, something I think that happened is, I've just been sitting on a lot of content for a long time. I'm an introvert.
Mm,
So I'm never
okay.
like being in front of the camera, right? So now this is my new life. Like my new life is in front of cameras, talking to microphones. I've never really enjoyed that. And so part of the kind of overgrowth of the fruit is a book. Is, when you develop so much content and so many courses, now it's like when you have to package it for others to be able to, consume them. And so when I wrote the book, one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to launch in a way that gave visibility to the work that we were doing, but then also
Mm,
bring some of these subject matter experts. And so we brought in NBA player Kyle Korver, ESPN analyst Sam Ocho, Grammy Award winner Lecrae, New York Times bestseller Beth Moore, and then sex trafficking CEO Christine Kane. And we just
mm,
allowed them to speak into these respective areas about how people should not give up, how they can use the resources that they have accessible to them right now, and what are the ways that they can begin to apply the principles to see their own lives grow. Actually, if you'd like to check it out, go to bjthompson .com. I don't know, it's BJ Thompson dot, I forget the website.
we could put it in the show
Okay.
notes. We could put it,
Yeah.
yeah, we could put it in the show notes.
See,
Okay.
that's how much I don't be on
Wow.
my own websites. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
That's okay. I wouldn't know either, so don't worry about it.
yeah.
But we can
So, oh, no,
definitely
no, I know
add
what it
the
is. It's
awakening.
bj-thompson.com. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
bj-thompson.com, and you can go watch
Uh-huh.
the replay. But again, we wanted to bring together these incredible voices to talk about what everyday people can do, right? Remember that. So much of
Mm,
what we think we got to be somebody super connected and have this award or that award. Really, you just have to be somebody with a passion and desire. And that's what I really love doing. I love helping regular people make sense of their own lives and gain back power and agency and control.
wow. Wow. I am so excited. And we'll make sure that it's in the show notes so that those of you who missed that, that you can go and take a look at it. Now, let's talk about your book. You got it sitting there, right there in the back.
Oh,
I was
this
like, I
little
need to get,
thing?
yeah.
You mean this thing?
I remember, I remember when you got that deal, right? It's so exciting. I think we're under the same publisher too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I love I'm, let me just say this. Okay. I'm so grateful that we're seeing more people who look like us to
Yeah.
get book deals. I'm just going to say it. And and not
Say
just,
it loud though.
I know, right? Right.
Say
I
it
am so
loud.
grateful that more people that look like us are getting book deals because, and then also book deals on, I mean, different diverse
That's right.
topics,
That's right.
that's the
That's
thing.
right. Hold on. Let me say this. So let me just say this super candidly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am an expert in growth and development. And so,
Yes.
you just got to understand for somebody who's a true coach to have to be pigeonholed to subject
Mm.
matters because they're typecasting me. It's very it's
Yeah.
daunting and it's inconsistent with who I actually am. And so, as a
Mm.
coach, as somebody who writes programs and courses for human beings and people to develop across the spectrum of mind, body, spirit in this integrated way, I needed someone who was like, man, I believe you can do that. Not be the diversity champion, not be the token, not be the this, not be the that. I
Mm-hmm.
needed the space to be me. And I love that for us. I love that the things that we're actually great at, passionate about, and have put in the 10,000 hours. I put in more than 10,000 hours into these
Mm.
works. I can now publish books about it, not just put out
Mm.
courses. And those books are everywhere. You can go to Target, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, you can pick that up. It is a globally published book. So yes,
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. I'm also excited about the diversity we're able to write on.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm so grateful for people like you and Jamar and different ones. I have different text groups with different people.
Mm-hmm.
And, let me tell you, when we're someplace and we're together, believe me, we're on a text group and we're
Oh yeah.
talking about everything.
Oh yeah.
We all
Everything.
everything. I like to cut up and so we do that a lot. And I know, even during the pandemic, we connected a lot because we were all trying to figure out oh my goodness,
That's right.
this
We're trying
is
to
either
survive.
gonna,
We're trying not to die. We're trying to
yeah,
survive. That's right.
we were trying to
Right.
survive and we were
That's
trying to
right.
come up with every kind of idea on how we're going to raise money for these nonprofits that we're running and and how we're going to get attention in the midst of everything that's going on. And so I mean but it's good to have that support of people who are leading things and growing things and developing things and creating things like yourself and so many others where I don't even have to explain certain things to you because it's your story too. You know what it's like. And I like the way one thing we do is people are just very open to sharing, in our space. It's not like anyone is hoarding information, but we freely give. If we have a resource or if we have a contact, because we're all trying to do this very difficult work and leading sometimes without the social capital or financial capital, in this work. And so I'm really, really grateful for that. And so in your book, you give readers a 4-step process to unlock greater mental, spiritual, relational, and emotional health. You say there is a desperation. I think there's a desperation of information, application, and transformation.
Mhm.
Um, and can you share a little bit about each of those and how would those intersect with the life of bridge building? So we
Yeah,
got bridge builders here and we got to take care of ourselves.
that's
And there's
right.
some difficult work. And so what I noticed, especially in this work, we take out, especially those of us who are people of color, it is a lot, and I always tell people, hey,
Mhm.
take breaks, go sit on the sideline, but we understand that sometimes our very survival and our thriving depends on us getting back um, in the game, you know. And
Right.
so, um, what would you say to each of us as it relates to those the information application transformation that
Yeah.
could help us as a bridge builder? Those who are listening.
Yeah, that's great. So first and foremost, if people are not listening, make sure you take this episode and share it with at least 5 people. We want them to
So
get
good.
all of these episodes. It's incredible work that you're doing. And that happens because you as a listener, you subscribed, you hit share, and you like the podcast. You like the Instagram post that give a preview. And this is what allows us to bring visibility to people who are often not visible. I love that you mentioned about even just the work that we do. I was sharing this, and within what we do in coaching and development, we also do charity, right? Because we also want to give back and do
Yeah.
development work with kids. You know this, so we work with orphans, right? So we work at
Yeah.
orphanage to provide
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna have you talk about that. I'm gonna have you talk about the orphanage that you're working with too.
Okay. Yeah, but I just say that to say when you share, like, subscribe, you bring visibility to that work and you
Yeah.
allow us to be able to continue that work in very essential and critical ways.
Mhm.
For us, for me, for somebody who's the oldest, who's always giving away, one day you wake up and you realize you are out on fumes and you have
Mhm.
served and helped everybody else but yourself. So you is tired, boss. What's that lady that meme? Remember before the pandemic when they released them Popeyes chicken sandwiches and the lady was bent over on the
Oh.
side? That lady was bent over on the side with that meme because she was so tired from serving them new chicken sandwiches, spicy chicken sandwiches. It's a meme on the internet.
Yes.
That's how we are. We are like
Uh-huh.
that when we pour out, pour out, pour out, pour out, and don't do anything to take in. So this book is specifically about how you can start caring for yourself, right? How you
Mm.
can start stopping, pausing, understanding your narrative, understanding your story, beginning to bring to order the parts of you that you've neglected, the parts of you that you've invested in, and
Mhm.
allow them to work together in a way that brings you alive, right?
Mm.
And I use a lot of my story in this book because I want to show people that I come from some of the most challenging environments with the least amount of resources and the least amount of
Mm.
relationships. But I learned these key principles. And the reason why these principles work is not because I've used them for myself exclusively to go from the rural to the suburb to the urban to the private community to the public sector to the corporate sector to the sports world to this, and it all worked. That's not it. I've actually worked with real people, and I love that's really probably the keys to our work, right? Is I work with actual people. So I work with people who are
Mhm.
athletes. I work with Fortune 500 companies. I work with people in the inner city. I work with people who, are newly graduate college students. I've worked with all these individuals to be like, oh, that's why it works. It works because it works across the spectrum. So,
Mhm.
what's the process? The first
Mhm.
thing you have to do in your mind is to make a decision, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's teetering. We all scared. I'm so scared. I wanna do something. Well, you got to be desperate. You have to make a decision. And so until you make a decision, there can be no growth. There can be no
Mhm.
change. There can be no progress because everything starts, right? Change starts not with your circumstances, but change starts with your mindset. You making up in your mind, this has to change. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and do the same thing. I'm going to wake up and do something new, even if I don't know, right? But then you move from
Mhm.
out of that place. And so now you need to know something, right? So now you said, all right, I'm going to make up my mind. I'm going to do something different. Now I need to get the right type of information about it, right? Um, you know, People will tend to spin their wheels on things that, will burn them out, will traumatize them. And really, it was like you didn't do any research. You took no time to search. You just started doing some things. And I know this personally, right? I know this from somebody who used to skip school, shoot dice, beat people up, right? Like I did all the different things because I was always cutting corners. Well, there's certain corners in growth you can't cut because it's just a part of the process. So you need a process, right? And you need
Mhm.
a research process, right? So now it's
Mhm.
the information, the right information. Remember, the wrong information will have you stuck. The right information will have you excel. Okay.
Mhm.
Then from there, and I'll just kind of say this quickly, and feel free to ask any questions about this. Now it's application. Okay. So I
Mhm.
moved from making a decision to researching to now I have to apply the thing that I just learned. Remember, when you get to this place, it has to be practical application. It can't just be this random thing, right? You're going to read, right? PhD students. My friends were
Uh-huh.
PhD students and they reading 600 pages a day. Tasha, I don't know how I'm going to read 600 pages a day. Even
I
if I
know,
got
right?
on my Audible, huh? That's what I'm saying. Even if I got on my
Yeah.
Audible, there was no way for me to read 600 pages a day. I don't know what they doing. I don't know if they just waking up in the morning and just going into a book. There is no way for me to do that. So that's not practical. Now, if you said I needed to read 10 pages a day, that
Mm.
makes sense, right? So practical application means
Right.
what is it that you have the capacity to do in order to engage the process that you've developed? The last thing is the transformation. And this is a great part because you start to see the change. Well, here's the only caveat. You have to be aware of self-sabotage, right? Many of
Mm.
us have, you ever heard the phrase, better the devil you know than the one you don't? You ever heard that phrase
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just
Yeah.
basically means people get scared. That once I
Mm.
start coming to this new place and I start seeing a little bit, right? So I change my diet just a little bit. And I start seeing these
Mm-hmm.
health benefits. What gets scary? Because I've never been here before. Now I have
Mm-hmm.
to guard myself on self-sabotage. And I have to believe I'm not an imposter, that I actually belong here. I belong in this healthier, more experienced, more freeing version of myself. So
Mm.
what you think?
That's good. That's good. I'm sitting up here thinking, I'm still thinking about like your story and your beginning story, and really basically how you have overcome yourself
Oh yeah.
personally, and I'm just thinking like, what was the thing when you were a kid? I'm sure it had to be like, although your mom was young, the family that you had around you or the support system. I'm just like, how am I sitting here talking to this wise, you know, young man that you would never, like how you say you don't look like what you've been through,
Nah,
you know, and just, and I think it's just really telling for anyone that's listening to this. Just your beginnings does not determine, your end point,
that's right.
or your middle point, and so what was that thing for you, BJ? Like, I mean, I'm just thinking like, are you very disciplined? Are you a very disciplined person?
I mean, sometimes it just depends. If we talking about being on time, maybe, right? Sometimes I'll just tell you what it is. I mean, literally, I'll give you my secret.
Yeah.
I have a adverse reaction to negative outcomes in my own life, right?
Mm.
I remember growing up, you said it as a kid. I was like this as a kid. I thought about, I have family members who were strung out on alcohol. They're winos.
Yeah. Hmm.
I remember looking at them thinking as a 7-year-old, I don't know what I
Yeah.
want to be, but I'll never be that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
was like I had were making decisions at 6 and 7.
Mm.
No, that's not the
Yeah.
life I choose, right?
Yeah.
And I think as life, again, you get these self-limiting beliefs because you come from a certain environment, a certain thing, and you see this is not working out. You're kind of left
Hmm.
with a choice. Do I want to keep doing
Hmm.
it like this and experiencing the same thing? Poverty, sickness, relationship confusion, spiritual confusion, gender confusion, whatever I'm doing the same thing over and over again. Or do I want to make a new choice? And I think what
Mm.
happened over time is I just kept making new choices. Well, that means I
Mm.
had to become a new person. And,
Mm.
again, I
Hmm.
think the thing that people get from me, specifically ask me how people can connect with me. I think what people get from me is like my environment was so volatile. I talk about a story in there where, people bring this up to me all the time, random people too. Oh, I read the story about you getting into this. I tell the story about me getting into this fight with 3 guys, and I went 3-0 in this situation. I did. I did. I went 3-0. All right. Now listen, let me tell
Okay.
you why. This is true.
Oh,
16, 17. I was
oh,
16, 17 years
16,
old.
17. Okay.
And I went 3-0. Okay. But let me
Okay.
tell you what happened. And listen, I'm not saying I was right to get into the situation. The way I got into it was really kind of bad. I got into it with this young
Yeah.
woman. She had friends that were her brothers. They was like, we're going to see you. We're going to beat the brakes off of you. That's basically what they told me.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
instead of running from the fight, I called one of the guys like, where you at? Let's meet up. So we met up and we handled business. And then the next guy, I wrote the story in about how I got off the bus. I had a choice. I could have got on a city bus because this is back in the day. This is before helicopter
Yeah.
parenting, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't grow up
Right.
in the
Right.
helicopter parenting. I grew up having to make it to and from school, either on a city bus or on a school bus. And I could
Okay.
have gotten
Okay.
on a city bus, which would have taken me right in front of my house, right down the street, or I could have rode the school bus, which would have dropped me at an adjacent school. I knew that the next guy that I needed to get into an altercation with was at that school. I made the choice to get on that bus. I made the choice not knowing who was even waiting on me. And I think the thing that people get from me is I've been in so many volatile environments. I'm not saying I'm fearless, but it's hard for me to be afraid. And it's because I've seen so much. I know the real threats. I know the real predators. And so I think that what people pull from my story is they kind of draw upon my strength. That's what it is. They're drawing on my strength to go, oh, you're not afraid. So then I say to them, you should stop being afraid to ask for that promotion. You should stop being afraid to start that nonprofit. You should stop being afraid to begin to repair that marriage if it's repairable. You should stop being afraid to reconcile with your family. You should stop being afraid to do this thing and this transformation in your health that you've always been waiting for. And I think what people start to see with this kind of integration of me sharing a whole story, because for the longest time, I was only sharing one part of my story. I was telling about the time when I came to faith and when I changed and want to help people. I was not telling all chapters of my story. So then again, I was washing out my own story, right? Instead of, again, if it's a 1 through 35, 1 through 40 chapter story based off your life, I was only telling chapter 20 through 27. I wasn't telling chapter 1 through 35, 1 through 42, right? I wasn't telling that part.
Yeah.
Right? And so because I started telling my whole story, now it makes more sense. Oh, that's why you're not afraid. Oh, you dug bullets?
Yeah.
Yes. Did you duck bullies? Did you duck bullies? No. Oh, you never ducked one of them? No, not any of them. That's why you're not afraid to do this. I don't have to be afraid. No, don't be afraid, but be afraid of this. That'll be the thing that kills you. So.
And man, boy, has things changed now, because now you don't know if that person is going to meet you at the bus stop. Like, kids don't fight like especially here in Atlanta.
Oh, they were not.
Like
they were not when I was growing
back
up.
in the day. When you. Yeah, the gun violence now is like a whole nother level, even with young kids, In the beginning of your book, you say every thought in this book and the basis of who you are is undergirded by one basic principle. And this is something I hear you say. I think you posted, I don't know if you're still on that Bird app. I don't even want to say it. But I'm not sure if you're on that app still,
On
but
Be
you
the
say
Bridge
it all the
podcast.
time.
I'm really talking about Be the Bridge podcast.
Oh, the
Make
Be the
sure
Bridge
y'all
podcast.
subscribe that. That's right.
You say you're a mess yet deeply loved by God. Why is this important to start from there and build on that?
Yeah, that's a great point.
You always post about it. I think you may have a T-shirt and stickers.
Oh, I do.
But it's
I do have a T-shirt.
It's like
People love the T-shirt.
Yeah, you are a mess yet deeply loved by God.
Yeah.
Why is that important to start from there?
Yeah, because I think most of us start out of the personal development. We started out of guilt and shame. We start our changes out of guilt and shame. Right? That's the sisters. Guilt, shame. Right? You're trying to change yourself by guilt and shame. And that's never sufficient, because if you move forward and you fail, they're just going to scoot tighter to you. Right? They're going to move in closer to you and remind you why. You have to know that you are loved first. Right? That you are deeply loved for who you are. Not for who you pretend to be, who you project to be, for who you are. When you know you are loved for who you are, it changes the tone of how you're able to be courageous about changing your life. And so when I talk about that, I talk about the I am a mess part. It means you are who you are, flaws and all, right? None of us need to lie about that. Again, we're in very essential work. in coaching and bridge building, but you got to admit your own biases, right? Like your own
Mm-hmm.
explicit and subconscious biases. You have to, because this is just a part of this journey. But you're not
Mm-hmm.
just those biases and the weaknesses. You are the strengths. You are the beauty. You are loved. And when you do that, now it's not so paralyzing every time you make a mistake. You can say something stupid. I'm sure y'all probably covered this in y'all's training, right? Staying, maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe y'all call it saying something stupid in a conversation, and how you
Uh-huh.
can recover from it because you're
Yeah.
loved. You move into these
Yeah.
environments where you are loved, and it doesn't characterize you. It's just a part of the journey. It's just a part of the process. And so I talk about this self-growth, self-actualizing journey. It has
Mm-hmm.
to be rooted in that. Otherwise, it'll be rooted in shame and guilt, and it'll lead
Yeah.
us instantly back to the places that we really don't want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes if we're just honest with, you know what, this is a mess. This is a mess.
That's
But
it.
it doesn't have to remain a mess, you know?
That's
And
it.
I think, just that admitting that, I always say, in this world of racial literacy, we always say, it's broken, it's a mess, it's a complete mess. We didn't create the mess, but it is our responsibility to bring about solutions for it. And so I think that's exactly what you're saying there. What encouragement or advice would you give to those of us in the racial adjustment work, those who are listening? They're in this work of racial justice, and they need to make time for rest, self-care. I mean, so many. I mean, I was just thinking about um, um, I think the young lady that was in Texas, I think her name was Tatiana. Her sister just passed, and her sister was very young. It was the little boy that she was actually playing video games. Her nephew, his mom, just passed from heart failure.
Wow.
You hear about. I heard about the guy up in New York. His name is so many names, but Eric Garner. I think that was Eric Garner up in New York, where his I think it was his daughter. Her health. I mean, and just like you're hearing about suicide of a lot of activists and just
Yeah.
all these things. And so we know that rest and self care is important. I mean, even with our organization, we probably give a little more vacation than the typical, organization. We have a period of time during the summer where we just all shut it down, because it's one thing when you take vacation, but when everybody else is working, when you come back, you got a whole pile on,
Right.
and so, but we take a time during the summer where we just kind of give everyone a time to reset. We have to do things a little different than the
Mm.
typical organization because of what we deal with and the the stress that it causes. And
Yep.
so but a lot of times that's overlooked and not prioritized. What are some of the things that you do that can help those that are listening, that are involved in the racial justice space? What are some things that you're doing that can cause them to center rest and self-care?
Yeah, that's a great question. So two things.
uh,
One, pick up 5 copies of the Awaken, A Better You book. Available on
right.
Audible,
Yeah.
Amazon, Target,
Yes.
Barnes and
Yes.
Noble, wherever books are sold. And I mean that very
Uh-huh.
seriously. And go
Yeah.
through it because it's detailed instruction on how to take care of you in a holistic way, right?
Mm.
So I think this is really important. Is like we're kind of winging it, and self-care means like taking baths, getting
Yeah.
massages. Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't involve other meaningful areas of
Exactly.
life. And
Mm-hmm.
I would just say, especially as you go check it out, buy 5 copies, go through it with friends, especially for those who are doing the critical work, because you do need to have a mature
Okay.
knowledge on how to take care of yourself. The second thing is,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what we do, you talked about charity. One of the ways that keeps me from being burnt out is not just the rest that I take, it's the work that I do. And the work that I do
Mm.
with like orphans and with kids, that
Yeah.
recharges my spirit, right? Because it's not about contention. It's not trying to argue with anybody. It's not about trying to create some type of emotional trap. It's I am working with human beings helping them flourish by providing their basic needs like clean water, clothing, beds, education. And when I watch those seeds grow, it inspires my hope, right?
Mm.
It keeps me from being caught up in foolish talk, keeps me being caught up
Mhm.
in foolish debate. One of the best things I did, I say this a lot. I left certain groups and my mental
Mhm.
health cleared up because I don't have to engage in argument and debate. I'm only engaging in the things that build people up, that they bring shalom to my soul. And so I think you got to find those things. What are the things for you? For us, it's BBU Cares. That's one of the things that I do. But you got to find your things. What are
Mm.
the things that you do every day or that you do that you're doing intentionally that bring peace and rest to your soul to where now as you're doing some of these difficult work, you really have a better balance and you're not burnt out.
Mhm. Can you tell us about the I think it's BBU, the group that you're working at, BB Cares. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing? I think you're doing some things in Africa, right?
Uganda. When
Yeah,
Uganda.
Uganda. Can you tell us a little bit? I had the opportunity to go to Uganda a few years ago, to southern and northern Uganda,
Yep.
and and so incredible country. So I would love to hear more about. Let's tell the audience about what you're doing and what you're working on there.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, if you're a person of faith, there's a
Hmm.
passage in James which says pure religion, undefiled religion is caring for the orphan and the widows, right? So
Hmm.
one who can bridle
Hmm.
their tongue and care for the orphan and the widow.
Yeah.
And what this means is just these are people who are they need support, right? Everybody doesn't need, we all need relationships. Everybody needs support in a specific way. And so
Hmm.
pure faith looks out for people who truly need support. And
Hmm.
so one of the things that we discovered as a growth and development organization is that, in America, there's tools and resources, courses that we can just give. So we send you through a course, you go through this program, you gain this experience, it works. But when you try to do that in places that lack clean water, the ability to go to school, the ability to like have safe shelter, the ability to have clothing and a nutritious meal, you're
Hmm.
asking people to pull themselves up by a bootstrap with no shoestrings. And so because of that, we have
Repeat
been
that again.
I said
Hey,
I said
hey, BJ, repeat that again.
okay. What I said is in America, we can give people or develop any developed nation courses, programs, and experiences, and it will benefit them in the ways that we've intended because they have all their essential needs. When you go to places that are underdeveloped, that don't have social safety nets, for kids, for adults, for disabled people, and you try to give them those courses, those programs to develop, you're asking them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps with no shoestrings. There are
Hmm.
no shoestrings. So if you are a child and your parents die and your family can no longer afford to keep you, feed you, and take care of you, you literally go to the streets. There's no in
Hmm.
between, there's no buffer, there's no child protective services. You literally become a homeless 2-year old. You become a homeless 4-year old. And that's what a true orphan is, right? The work that we do, and we decided to do this intentionally Black led because the organizations that we saw working were
Hmm.
99% majority or white led organizations. And we had to ask
Hmm.
ourselves tough questions. Are we comfortable with seeing Black and Brown people only having initiatives being developed by white, non melanated people as their primary exclusive way of developing programs, agency, and support? And we were not comfortable with that, right? And because we know that less than 5% of minority led organizations receive funding, it didn't matter. So we said we're going to first and foremost provide basic needs. All right, we're
Hmm.
going to partner with reputable people, vet them, go through all of the processes to ensure
Hmm.
certifications, everything else. Figure out what's needed, right? Get down to the basics. You ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The first
Yeah.
thing is
Hmm.
shelter, food, clothing, water. If that's not
Mm-hmm.
there, we're establishing that. So what we do now is we're establishing consistent educations, because if you go to places like that, I'm sure when you went there, you saw kids walking around, right? It was a school
Mm-hmm.
day and they're walking around. Did you notice that when you went to Uganda?
Well, yes, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is because there's no public school system.
Right.
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 That's why. So you saw kids with uniforms walking up and down the roads because they were not paying tuition fees. Their parents could not afford tuition fees. They went to school anyway and were turned around.
Mm-hmm.
So the educational gap is large if you
Yes.
cannot afford to go to school. So one, we provide education. Two, safe shelter. So right now, even as we speak, we're working on getting our facility up to code. So our children live where there's no running water.
Mm-hmm.
They have a water pump at the front. So we're getting a new clean water pump well. But then we have to figure out the facility. How do we get bedding? Because the kids are sleeping on concrete on the floors and like this little thin mattress deal, right? So now we have to get like beds built that are going to fit within this temporary structure for 28 children. So it's like, how do you build sustainable beds so that when it's rain, kids are not they're not sleeping in puddles of water, right? Then having to get
Mm-hmm.
up and do these different things. And so, essentially it's all the little things that you and I just take for granted. It's things that we don't think about that we're
Right.
bringing operational dollars to, but then a holistic program that not only helps them survive, but to thrive. One of the goals that we have is providing a supplemental education where we bring in a tutor, because again, many of those kids are behind. The little ones who started in the pandemic, they missed a year
Mm-hmm.
and a half of school,
Yeah.
right? Because when COVID came, they were sent home, but these are their critical years of education. This is their primary education. So now the 4-year-old is
Yeah.
missing years 4 through 6 in education. There's no head start, there's no
Mm-hmm.
anything. They're just at home writing on a chalkboard. So now there's a lot of educational gaps. And we know that education is the
Yeah.
number one way to pull people out of poverty. So now we have to
Mm-hmm.
bring in supplemental education to ensure the tutoring happens. But then not only that, one of the other goals is to make sure that we bring them like technical training, like coding, teaching them about digital currency, teaching them
Yeah.
how to do the things that will allow them to be sustainable long term and through empowerment. And so we're
Mm-hmm.
doing that in West Uganda. You say you were North?
I went to Southern, and I also went to Northern with another organization, a program called, I forget the name of the program, but I also do work with Africa New Life down in Rwanda too. And they have like this holistic approach. I'll have to tell you about some of the work that Africa New Life is doing, which is Rwandan led. So
Good.
I'll have to tell you about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but all that to say
But that's
again. Go ahead.
I love that. I love it. No, no, I was just saying I love that what you're doing in West Uganda. And I'm glad that we can put some information in the show
Mhm.
notes about what you're doing. And I like that as a Black-led organization that you're leading those efforts, and doing that. And that is important. It is important for them to see, people like us. I guess somebody listening said, well, no, it's important that they see anybody that's going to help them. But no, it's really empowering when they see people like them, and then and it's also good for us to go to what we call the motherland and
Right.
visit and become familiar with the culture. So I love the beauty of all that you're doing.
Yeah.
Tell me, as we get ready to close now, tell me what are some things that are that you're lamenting right now? Some things that may be causing deep sorrow for you right now.
Yeah, I think that some of the things that I'm lamenting is our lost sense of identity for who
Mm,
we actually
mm-hmm,
are. I'm
mm-hmm,
also lamenting this, what seems like it's a grave mistake that we have as far as like developing children
mm-hmm,
and how we help them like gain confidence and what they're confident in and why.
mm-hmm,
And then I'm also just grieving the fact that we have so many what feels like this intentional misinformations about like critical things like health. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
weird thing. I'm just lamenting, like, man, why is there
Mm-hmm.
like feels like there's these voices that are keeping people from getting healthy food or knowing about like all of the poisons. Is like, what is that? Why is it trying to drown us out? Why are we being drowned out by these
Mm-hmm.
entities? And so I just been really talking with my children and trying to just come to a healthier place. But those are some of the things I'm grieving right now.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And I love the fact that, what you're demonstrating is just how we as a people are not monolithic, and that we have different passions and different goals and desires and but they all take us to a place of beauty.
Yeah.
They all take us to a place where we can flourish and thrive. And so, what are some things now that's bringing you hope? What is something that's bringing you hope?
Oh yeah. So what's bringing me hope is the work that we're doing in Uganda. So I mean, it's a
Uh-huh.
beautiful thing. I sat on the steps a couple of months ago with our kids, and I was like, man, these kids are really depending on us.
Mm,
So it just really brought me hope and just made me realize that, even with all of the, publishing deals and the courses that we do, what really brings me hope
mhm.
is like being able to do charity, being able to give back, and to empower
Yeah.
marginalized groups. I think what's also giving me hope
Mhm.
is I'm watching people here like change. I'm watching people self-actualize. I'm watching
Mhm.
working professionals like do a better job of taking care of themselves, integrate, and then
Mhm.
do critical work with others. And so it's been really rewarding to see, man, it's not just about you being selfish, right? You're healing, like recovering what's
Mm.
broken, restoring what's broken, but then now you want to help somebody else. And so that's been really like
Yeah.
hard for me.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for just
Thank you.
joining us. We're gonna make sure we'll have in the show notes everything about your book and everything and how people can get in contact with you. But we're so grateful for you,
Thank
BJ.
you.
We're so grateful for, Build a Better Us. We're so grateful that you wrote a book, Awaken a Better You, and how this is helping so many people. And and it's a cornerstone for what your organization is doing and helping build healthy, strong people, individuals, and families. And so we're grateful for you, and I'm thankful that you're here in Atlanta doing all these amazing things, and we look forward to connecting with you more in the future. So thank you all for listening to the Be the Bridge podcast, and I am Latasha Morrison, and this was BJ Thompson, Build a Better You.
Thank you so much.
Great, great.